giving you useful and practical tips to help you make more money selling travel. This is the Art of Selling Travel Podcast. And here to guide you through it all, your host, Glenda Beagle.
Well, hello there. This is the very first episode of Advisors on Air After Hours. So what is it? Well, first off, I think this is going to be my most favorite thing I ever get to do when it comes to coaching and working with travel advisors. And that is that you get to call in and ask your questions. It's legit that easy. So all you have to do is we're going to link up a spot on the website. I'm going to put it in the show notes so that you can go there, get connected with the form, fill it out, and then the next time we're doing a recording, we're going to invite you on air. And it's super easy. You get to ask whatever burning question you have in your travel business, and I'm going to help you work through it. Today's episode, we have some phenomenal travel advisors asking fabulous questions. In fact, I can't wait to get this started. So we're going to be jumping right in right away here, but I want you to know that this is kind of what I'm calling the soft launch of Advisors on Air. And in fact, we're going to be doing a full rollout in just another few weeks where we're adding in an even more fabulous segment. Like, yes, this is getting better as we go. I can't wait. So if you're ready, then let's head on over to our very first caller. Up first, I'm so excited, Ray. Thank you so much for being the very first guest on the After Hours. How can we help you?
Hi, Glenda. Thank you for having me. As you said, my name is Ray. I'm with a company called Generations Getaways in northeastern U.S. in the smallest state in the Union in Rhode Island. The question I have is, how do I attract higher spend clients? And then once I have higher spend clients, how do I sell to them? How do I close the deals, if you will?
Okay. So that's two really important questions, but ironically enough, this is where that sales and marketing side of it go together. And I think so often when we're working with marketing coaches, things like that, they're going to tell you how to find them. They just don't tell you what to do with them afterwards. But it's knowing what is that outcome afterwards that's going to help you to find them to begin with. So where are you at in your business at the moment? Is that who you're working with, or are you working below where you want to be and you're trying to climb up, or how would you describe that?
I'm definitely working below where I want to be, and I would definitely like to climb up. To say I have budget clients, I'd say some of my clients are budget clients. Some are medium spend clients, but really my goal for this is to really attract the higher spend clients to the name of the company, Generations Getaways. It was all about families to begin with, large family gatherings, large family trips, multi-generational trips is really where I want to be, but I haven't really quite gotten there yet.
Okay. So how are you currently attracting your clients?
Mainly Facebook. I do some Facebook ads. I've dabbled in local school programs, but not a whole lot of marketing. It's all really shoestring marketing, if you will.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Don't knock a bootstrapping. We all bootstrap to get going. That's for sure. So my question for you, because I love a good multi-gen. When you can get grandma and grandpa and they're the ones making all the decisions, they're the ones holding those were my favorite files for sure. I would far rather sell to 2 people and book 38 than to sell to 19 couples that all had a different opinion. So definitely. So if we were to pull up your Facebook, what kind of conversations are you having on there? What are you putting on there?
Daily, I post inspirational quotes. I don't know if all of them are inspirational. Some of them are kind of funny. They're all basically travel related quotes that I put together that I found using Canva. I put nice picture in the background with the quote on the front. That's daily. I also subscribe to the can't think of it right now. The free posting out there. Why can't I think of the name?
Branch
I
up.
think you know what I'm talking about. So that they post daily, every other day, sometimes a couple times a day.
Okay.
And then just anything that pops up, information that I feel would be useful to clients, I'll go ahead and create a post.
Okay.
Put it up there.
So now that we know what you're doing, let's talk about the people you want to attract. What is it that you want? So when we talk multi-gen, that one of the big things there is that multi-gen is not always a luxury product. Just because grandma and grandpa are paying, they're also paying for 38 people. So there's difference between 38 people times 2,000 per person and 38 people times 10,000 per person for like a week on a beach kind of thing. Those are two different conversations, two different types of properties, two different types of everything. But I think sometimes people don't realize that grandma and grandpa will spend, 2,000 per person. And that is definitely very much part of the multi-gen. I think sometimes there can be a gap between the differences. Because if grandma and grandpa were the only ones going, they would have a fabulous vacation with that 70-some thousand dollars for a vacation for two, but they're trying to get out a whole bunch of people. So it does make a difference that way. So when you think of these multi-gen, and you were saying you're wanting to upscale things like that, how would you describe grandma and grandpa?
Affluent, excuse me, affluent, large family. I'm not sure when you say describe them. I mean, I don't understand that question completely.
So if grandma and grandpa were the ones, so we're just going to imagine the grandma and grandpa have come to you and that they are the dream grandma and grandpa. Okay. And they were to say, I want to book XYZ. What kind of property or what kind of product or what kind of supplier are they going to be mentioning?
I'd say probably all-inclusive Aruba type area. Or on the cruise side, it would probably be a Royal Caribbean or a Celebrity.
Okay.
Cruise line.
Okay. So, and this kind of brings me back to my point too. And this is why sometimes when we start talking about luxury or, it starts to become a bit of an overused word, because there may be advisors that are listening to this right now thinking that those are like some of them, those are amazing brands. And I'm not knocking the brands in any way, shape, or form. But for some of them, that is that is top end luxury. I've worked with advisors that tell me I am an all luxury client. I sell balconies on Celebrity. And then there's other ones that will say I'm luxury. That would be the bottom end if I touched it. So it's such a sphere. So I think sometimes that's why we need to get out of that language of luxury, affluent, things like that, and actually start looking at what is the product that they're going to come to us with. And therefore, what are the conversations that those suppliers are having on their own socials? What are the conversations those suppliers are having on their websites? Things like that. How are they enticing? I'm just thinking Royal Caribbean off the top of my head here. I've sailed them a number of times, and it's all about the adventure, the action, the entertainment, and all of the things that they've got going on and all of the stuff that they've got there. So what would be a trigger point for a grandparent looking to do a multi-gen with a cruise line like Royal Caribbean? What would be the conversations that you would want to be having? What problems does that solve, if you will, for the family?
I would say fun for the entire family, right?
Hmm.
Everybody included, something that everybody can enjoy all in one place.
Yeah. What it would be a fear of grandma and grandpa if they have just spent 70 or $80,000? What do you think is the biggest fear that they have in choosing something?
That they're not going to enjoy it, that the
Yeah.
grandkids aren't going to enjoy it. They're not going to have fun.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So now what if you were able to take that and start positioning it? Start positioning fun for the whole family. You know, grandma and grandpa, I guess you have to take your kids, but come on, let's get the grandkids. Let's go, Okay, mom and dad, you can go too, and and things like that. But really start having those conversations about what it means to have it as a whole big family. I'm going to caution you, especially when we use automated services, things like that. They like to use a lot of discounts and sales and things like that in their marketing. That
Yeah.
doesn't speak necessarily to a more affluent client. That
Agreed.
speaks to those that are looking for the last minute. It's really for that one-offs and things like that. You want to be having an entirely different conversation if your goal is to actually get a multi-gen family, or like you said, a little bit more of the affluent. They're not necessarily looking for the deal. They're looking to know the value. They're looking to know that everybody's going to have fun. Now, not everybody wants to be ripping down water slides and doing this, and they don't want to go on rock climbing walls and, et cetera, et cetera. So what else is there? There's Broadway level shows. They're not like what you're going to see at an all-inclusive. They are like the genuine Broadway version. The food. What are the dining options that are available? My favorite part when we did a cruise on our last multi-gen was my kids at the time. I think they were like 12 and 14, 15 type thing. And my nephew was right in around there. And then my cousin was there and she was 18. And so the teenagers and the preteens, they got to just go enjoy the ship. When we were at sea, they got to enjoy the ship. But we set a family time. So every night we had the anytime dining. Every night we made a reservation for the following night. So everybody knew when to come back to meet up. So talk about how you can have all this freedom for all the kids. And yet at the same time, everybody gets to gather back up and have supper as a family. Get to go out to the shows together, do the different sorts of things. And it's sort of like having a vacation within a vacation, because you can spend as much or as little time together as you want. The choice is yours. And that could even be part of what you talk about, is the fact that the choice is theirs, that they can choose what ports that you're going to set them up with. Do they have a favorite port that they want to go to? Do they have something they want to do? For some people, for myself, I love my sea days. Like if I had a whole week of sea days, I would be a happy, happy camper.
Me too.
And so it's, what are you? Are you more of a sea day, or are you somebody who wants to be out and about and doing things? What are some of the upgrades and cross sells that you can offer to them? What about getting that private cabana at, they all have their own island names, whether it's in Labadee or it's Castaway Cay or it's, and they all have their own thing. So what are some of the things that they can do to make their vacation even better? And start having those conversations, because when you're wanting to attract somebody who is going to spend more money, they need to know you're not scared of it. That's kind of first and foremost. And so when everything in your marketing is all about discounts and deals and this and that, they start to go, oh, I don't know if they actually know how to spend $100,000.
Yep.
And so
Understood.
It's really going back and having a look at everything in your marketing to say, does my marketing, does my website, does the auto post, does everything on there have a conversation with the people I want to have a conversation with? When you donate to a school or you do things with a school, are the parents of that school or the grandparents of that school part of your ideal clients?
Yep.
So, because I'm all
Sometimes.
for donating and I'm all for being part of my community. That's why I do what I do. So I can help travel advisors go out and be able to be more giving within their own communities. But it's also too, when you're doing it from the marketing perspective, because I do things that are from my heart and then I do things that are from my business. And when it's from my business, not every opportunity is going to lead you to success. Not every opportunity is aligned with your client. So that's where your heart will take over, and those become your heart donations. But the ones where you do it for a strategic purpose, you want to make sure that your actual ideal clients are going to be there, that your clients are going to be the ones that they're going to see there. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Ultimately, when you want to work with an affluent client, you just have to project that you know how to spend their money and that you're not scared of it. Because if they're not sure you know how to spend their money, they're going to go to somebody else who is. The FOMO is kind of out the door. It's now FOMO. It's fear of messing up. And they want to make sure if they're going to drop 100,000, because grandma and grandpa will drop 100,000, but it's maybe not something they do all the time. Maybe this is what they do, every 5 years, every 10 years, things like that. Maybe it's just once that they do it. They don't want it to get screwed up. So they want to work with somebody who understands the heavy dynamics of dealing with family. I'm going to assume not all families are as dysfunctional as mine, but there's some dysfunctional families out there. I find the more I talk about family dysfunction, the more the people are like, wait, yours too? So they want to know, because there's going to be so many opinions. There's going to be so many perspectives and everything else. So it's, how can we do that? And are you the person who can spend it without panicking? Okay.
Good to know.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Glenda.
You are so welcome. And we will be on to the next caller. Okay. Up next, we have Allison on the show. Hello, Allison.
Hi.
Hi. Where are you calling in from?
I am from Orlando.
Orlando.
Yeah, it's very cold here today.
I love that. I'm in Alberta. We have different opinions of cold.
Yeah, that's true.
But in fairness, on the day that we're recording this, we have spectacular weather. So, and by that, I mean, it's like 2 degrees above freezing. So, and there's no snow, which is shocking.
Well, we don't have snow, but we're only in the mid 50s right now. So that's cold for us.
So, tell me a little bit about your business.
So I am, I still consider myself to be new. I have been doing this since May of last year of 22. I purchased my franchise in May of this year. So, oh no, I'm sorry. I started in October of 22, purchased my franchise in May of 23. So I'm still pretty new to all of this. And I'm confused a little bit or a lot about fees.
Okay.
I have had my fair share of tire kickers, like I know everybody else has. And my fear comes from the fact that I am so new and there are so many other people out there that either aren't charging fees or they have much more experience than I do. So I worry about how to justify that being new.
Okay. No, I love it. This is a fabulous question. So, what would it, so let's talk about the being new part. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what will it take for you to feel not new and like you have the experience the others in the industry have?
That is an excellent question.
I know.
That's a lot to unpack, honestly. I don't have an answer. I don't have a good answer for that anyway. I think a lot of what I've done, and I've booked, several trips for people. Wow, that's really hard to answer. I'm not sure. maybe being in business longer, maybe having more of a client base than I have right now, expanding that client base. But I don't know that there's really a point that I'll ever feel not new. Like, I don't know.
Awesome. What if I told you that was actually a trick question?
I would believe you.
Because here's the scoop. Nobody ever feels ready to do anything.
Okay. Well, that's good.
So, it was like a couple years ago, I did a episode on the podcast with a travel advisor who didn't feel comfortable, like was very overwhelmed and this, that, the other. And it was because they didn't know the process of going through an airport in Mexico, but yet they've traveled into Asia and they've done all these other things. So it's really funny, the stories that we can tell ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting because when we try to reverse engineer that story of, okay, so I'm new, I can't charge fees. So what does it take to not feel new? And a lot of times I'll hear, well, when I know everything, and I said, well, that's never going to happen. It's travel.
Right. It changes all the time.
Daily, hourly, whether we are talking about wars, we are talking about pandemics, we're talking about all of these things that are going to impact our business. Just the moment you think you get a handle on it, there's going to be a virus or a this or a that. Like I've had H1N1, been through Zika, been like all of the different things that have gone on. And it's forever changing. One country gets in a spat with this country about whatever it is that they're trying to sell. And now the visa situation's changed. This has changed. That's changed. Yeah. So the moment that you have that understanding that things are always going to change, how does that increase the value you offer to your clients?
I think in looking at it from those terms, it increases it even more because I'm the one staying on top of all that information. I'm the one providing that to them. Absolutely. Which then in turn helps to justify that fee. See how good you are?
You know what? Here's the scoop. I am able to coach because I am the world's best storyteller, and I have told myself some line along the way every day, twice on Sunday. And so when people come to me and they try to tell me a story, I'm like, oh, I already wrote that one. And so, we got to get past it.
There.
Yeah, been there, done that. Actually, this is the whole premise to my coaching. Been there, done that. I bought the t-shirt. I'm going to let you borrow it so you don't have to do it. So, but the reality is fees is a really hot button topic, like really hot button. And anybody that doesn't believe me, go check out a travel agent Facebook group, man. But the thing is that there's so many pluses and minuses, pros and cons to each. And we can tell ourselves any number of stories. So if we were to step fully into, you have all the experience you need, you have all the knowledge you need, what are your thoughts on fees as a whole? Let's say you're looking at another business because you said, they've got so much more experience. What do you think when you see an advisor that charges fees?
Well, I think that a lot of what I see, what I hear are these people that are aligning with their perfect client, right? And they're able to pick and choose. They're okay letting someone go somewhere else and not work with them because that's just how they are. That's how they work. But then on the other side of it, I can see both sides to it. And for me, I think part of the personal struggle that I have is that I really love doing this. So it's fun for me to sit and plan a trip for somebody. Yeah. But then when I get ghosted or, somebody books something on their own after I've already talked to them and put in the work, then I get annoyed and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. It's a waste of time.
Well, and that's just it. And it starts to breed a resentment. And
Yes.
so now they've taken this amazing thing that you love to do, that you're so passionate about. And
Mhm.
now they've brought in all these other emotions to you
Yeah.
where now they're starting to destroy that.
Yeah.
Do you know what that leads to?
Well, resentment, like
It
you
leads-
said.
It leads to burnout,
Oh, yeah.
because this thing that becomes like, because travel is a passion-based industry.
Mhm.
And I know that there's people out there that say you can't just do it because of passion. Well, you got to do it because you enjoy it, because what's the point otherwise?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if now we have people who are taking advantage, or that's how we perceive it, that they're taking advantage of us. And it's like, how dare you do this to me? And then you start to resent them. Do you go into the next client completely free of resentment, or are you carrying some of that forward?
So here's the funny thing is, if it's a friend that I've talked to and went elsewhere, and then another friend approaches me, then of course I'm carrying that in, and I'm like, hold up, wait just a minute.
Okay.
But if it's somebody else, somebody new, then I'm okay with it. But I feel like I can't carry it in because it's my own fault, right? I let you do this to me.
And
So
logically, we know we can't carry it through. The
Mhm.
reality is we absolutely do, even when we're like, no, this isn't a friend. Now, spoiler alert, friends and family are the worst clients ever.
Yes, they are.
Like, hands down. And yet there's so many out there. They're like, start your business with your friends and family. I'm like, oh, heavens, no. No, let them refer people to you, but don't work with them. So we used to have a rule in my office when the new advisors would start.
Mm.
And I would say to them, I said, okay, so if your family wants to book, go ahead, send them to me. And they're like, well, I can do it. I'm like, oh, you're not going to want to. You're welcome to it. And sure enough, like, first day into working with them, they're like, could you take my parents? I'm like, yeah, but you're going to have to take mine. And they're like, I might keep my own then. But the thing is that friends and family will do that. One, that's partly our own fault. We have to set those boundaries. When we're sitting at a campfire and they're like, hey, what do you think of this? Talk to them like you would another friend and be like, oh my goodness, we had so much fun. But the moment that we're tipping over to where it's on the professional level, say, you know what, give me a call at the office on Monday. I'd love to hook you up with that. And I've got some great thoughts on it, but don't do it in the DMs. Don't do it at like, that's where the boundaries have to be the firmest, because otherwise it does create resentment. And I like to pride myself on the fact I'm pretty good at separating business and personal, but there's an awful lot of people who aren't. And so you don't want that resentment to then spool over into your actual personal life, because that's not good either.
Yeah.
Something interesting that you said was that they've aligned with their perfect client, which that's great. And I do believe a lot of them do. I'm going to say some, not as much as they've said, just, being from this side of the table, I'm going to tell you that. But I will 1000% say, until you are comfortable letting go of somebody who doesn't value you, you will never attract clients who do.
Yeah.
And so if you've never charged a fee before, I want you, just in your mind right now, think through all the clients that you have. If you went to all of them and said, from here on out, I'm going to charge you all $10 per person to take care of this for you, do you think they would all pay it?
I don't think all of them would.
Perfect. So now if they won't pay you $10, are they worth your time?
No.
Are you okay letting some of your clients go now?
I am, because I don't want to be, I keep coming back to the hearing, I don't work for free. I'm not an order taker, right?
No.
I'm running a business. This is my business.
Yeah.
And I would be okay with it, with letting them go.
Because if they won't even pay you $10, and yet you're going to keep track of the world affairs as to what's going on. You're tracking the weather. Hello, you're from Orlando. You've heard of a thing called a hurricane. You know how that can affect life.
Right.
So being from the prairies in Alberta, when we have people that go down to Disney World, down to Orlando, and we hear hurricanes coming, we're like, oh man, because that's completely foreign to what our day-to-day world is. So in which case it's like, okay, let's go through all the things, and we have to walk people through. Because we all know the media never blows anything out of proportion. So, I found one of my full-time jobs in travel was having to watch the news so that I knew what the phone calls the next day were all going to be about. Right now, where I am during the time of recording this in Western Canada, we have a sugar shortage. We are a couple weeks prior to Christmas and the shelves are empty of sugar. The chaos.
That's not good.
No, right? The chaos in our stores because you cannot buy sugar. I was trying to go into the local Safeway and one night, and as we were going in, this woman came out, her arms are full. She's like, I left 3 bags of brown sugar. It's the only one left in town. And I'm like, I'm off sugar right now. Thanks. But that's become like this all consuming. And so are people buying stuff because there's a panic and therefore, they're a part of it, or is it because they genuinely need it? There's so much that happens in our world. And part of our job in the travel industry is to help distill that down, help keep that calm.
Yeah.
If somebody could keep you calm by explaining something that's happening, just even to be able to say, okay, so yes, there is a hurricane headed where you're going. I'm going to go ahead, change your flights, or these are what all of your options are. If to them, that's not worth $10, they're not worth it to be my client.
I like that. Because what you're doing is making me kind of hard stop and turn it around and say, I have to know my value and what I bring to the table.
Yep.
And that, I have to know my value. Yeah. And I believe I know what that is. And I do believe that I offer value. So why wouldn't I get paid for my time, for the work that I'm doing? Because it is work, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Even though it's travel, you've got a lot of people out there thinking, oh, that's so much fun for you, but they don't understand everything that really goes into it. I didn't know until I really got into it, how much there is to do on all of these different bookings.
Right.
And I think that, that's, you're really making me see it in a different way. I love that.
Good. Now if it means charging a fee of $10, it means charging a fee of $10. I'm going to encourage you not to stay at $10.
I don't start at $10, I don't think.
Perfect. But the thing is, and this is what I want every travel advisor who's listening, who's timid about fees, they're kind of the fee curious. Look at your clients. If you charge them $10, would they still be your client? If the answer is no, I want you to really deep soul search, because does that client respect you? Do they see you as a professional, or do they just see you as somebody they can make do the stuff that they don't want to? And that really helps set it apart. And that's really an important part of the whole process, because nobody's going to see more value in us than we see in ourselves.
Right.
And so sometimes I think when people are saying, I haven't been selling long enough, I don't know enough, they're waiting for this magic moment when their client says, you're worth more than that. And clients don't say that. You might have some that say, oh, you don't charge fees? Oh, okay. And so the next question, odds are good that you're probably going to ask is, so when do I start charging? Do I charge the people that I already work with? Do I give them a time frame? How do I do this? It's almost like I'm a mind reader.
I was just going to say, you're reading my mind.
I would simply let people know, you have 2 options. One, or you have 3 options. One, you can set a date, effective such and such date. We will now be charging fees. 2, because you're a past client, I'm not going to charge you on this next trip, but the one after that, I'm going to go ahead and my business model's changed, and that's that. And the third option is effective 3 minutes after we're done this call, you start charging fees. And that's that. And there is just no take back. That's the way it is. That's what's going to give you the business model that you're looking for.
Mhm.
And I would always say to my clients that I charge fees, and they're like, but it's really easy. And I always say to them, I said, yes, when everything goes well, it's really easy. But when everything goes wrong, you are so insanely undercharged for fees that I do it on the over-under split. I charge everybody a fee up front. I manage their files. I look after them, do this, that, the other. And so long as nothing ever goes wrong, yes, it's a great revenue source. But when things go bad, I'm so deeply underpaid.
Yeah.
And
When you're
so
spending hours on the phone
Exactly.
and scrambling to make changes.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And so when people are at their worst, when something's gone wrong, when they've had to cancel, heaven forbid, a loved one's passed, anything else like that, I don't charge them more fees.
Mhm.
I don't charge cancellation fees. Did I charge change fees? Yeah. Especially when it was an optional change type thing.
Mhm.
But I did not charge cancellation fees because we're already at a point they're not getting their vacation. We're already at a point things have gone so wrong that this isn't happening.
Mhm.
That's why I always charged them on the front.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole bunch of things with that. For those that are listening that want to know more about fees, I have created a new course. artofsellingtravel.com/fees is going to get you there for that. But really and truly, fees is something I think is here to stay. Well, actually, no, I don't think. I know it's here to stay. And the reason for that is there was actually a time when the travel industry did not pay commission. This is something that came in. Travel agents used to work entirely on a fee-based system. Then the suppliers went, ooh, I want a piece of that pie. How do I get a little bit more? How do I get them on my side? So they started compensating them. And I've been doing this so many years, I've seen where the commissions have started going backwards. We have suppliers that have an overabundance of inventory. What do? They increase your commission because they want you to sell them. They're trying to buy you to pay attention to them.
Yeah.
To me, a fee means I work for my client. The commission's a bonus for my supplier.
Yeah.
My fees are entirely so that I work for my clients and that they hire me to do what needs to be done. So,
yeah.
awesome.
You've really got my brain going.
Fabulous.
I've got a lot to think about here.
Awesome. I love it. Make sure you head on over to the Facebook group and drop it in there. Let us know when you start charging fees. And if you run into obstacles, by all means, drop it in the Facebook group too, because we're going to help you out in there with that and help keep you going. So,
yeah. All right.
Awesome. Perfect.
Thank you
so much for joining me.
Of course. I appreciate your time.
Okay. How awesome was that? From trying to figure out how to attract higher end clients so that you can sell to them, and right into the fees conversation. Two phenomenal travel advisors who are about to set the stage for 2024 in their business. If this is something that you want to be a part of, come join us. All you have to do is go to artofsellingtravel.com/on-air, fill out the application to be an advisor that gets to come on air. And I can't wait to see what's going to come up next. We have a phenomenal layout of travel advisors coming up, everything from brand new right through to well-seasoned and everything in between. Here's the thing. If you're a travel advisor or aspiring to become a travel advisor, the question you have isn't the first time somebody's thought of it, isn't the first time somebody's asked themselves. It just might be the first time you get your answers. So again, I invite you to come join me over on artofsellingtravel.com/on-air. I'm going to link it up in the show notes for you. And until next time, happy selling.